Trade deadline takeaways now. And we're each going to pick one club. Yep. I'll pick the Cardinals, and only because I thought they had a real opportunity to move their aircraft carriers. Again, they've got all these excellent position players. You can buy pitching, but one thing you can do, age 35 season for Paul Goldschmidt. He's only under contract one more year. He's still very good. Nolan Arenado, age 32 season. So age 35 for Goldschmidt, 32 for Arenado. These are aging assets, as we call it in hedge fund baseball. And yet, the OPS plus for Arenado, pretty good, 125. For Goldschmidt, 128. Again, 100 is league average. The WAR is a 2 WAR. That's not great. It's good. Goldschmidt's 2.7. Both these guys can field, but they're getting older. Arenado, 4 years left after this year, $109 million owed. For Goldschmidt, 1 year, 26.5. I'm saying these are good players. I'm saying it should have been a better team. But you, on the market, you could make hay with those guys. You want a blue chipper in somebody's organization? You get a blue chipper for each one of those guys and probably a real haul if you want to trade them both.
Yeah, I wonder if the idea of having to pay some of the salary to get that blue chipper may have been what held Mosaic back.
I don't know if you'd have to. You think they would have had to? See, I think those guys are valuable. It's one thing when you're trading a 38-year-old Scherzer and a 40-year-old Verlander as opposed to Arenado, 32.
But you called them aging assets.
They are. It's happening, and yet there's value right now
100%.
Because they're still quite good.
Great players.
Should they have traded those guys and gone with their younger core, the Lars Nootbaars of the world, Tyler O'Neills, or do you think roll it back and try again next year?
Well, it depends on you want to sell tickets. Looking at that highlights tonight, there were a lot of empty seats at that ballpark. And that ballpark is usually packed.
The team is good, and you've already sunk yourself. The reason there's people not there is the team hasn't won.
2 weeks ago, Brian, they were on a homestand. A lot of fans were in those seats. I think the St. Louis Cardinal fan base right now knows that, okay, we've punted on 2023. This is the risk that you run. You get rid of Goldschmidt, you get rid of Arenado.
Oh, yeah.
Who do you hang your hat on to? Where do you hang your hat going into 2024?
Look, if the Cardinals win the division next year, I'm wrong, right? Because they can roll it all back next year. They can win it all. However, you sometimes need to take your foot off the accelerator. If you want to go every year, hey, we're going to have a winning record, you might find yourself in no man's land. Because still, 85, 86 wins a year is no man's
Holding
land.
on too long can hurt you. I mean, we saw it with the Phillies, a few years ago when they did it with Howard and Utley and that crew. They held on too long, and then they went through a really long streak where they were not competitive.
Okay, who stood out to you?
Baltimore Orioles, and I know a lot of people are waiting for them to do something dramatic. If I'm a player on that Orioles team right now, they acquired Jack Flaherty from the Cardinals. What it sends a message into that clubhouse if you're Mike Elias, we're trying. He was on with Harold Reynolds about 10 days ago, and they had a great interaction. Harold asked him, what were you going to do at the trading deadline? And he said, Harold, we have answered so many questions about this team that we think this team can make a deep run. We need to go do some upgrading if it fits what we want to do. Jack Flaherty, I really think, Brian, he needed a change of scenery. He needed to get out of St. Louis, and I think he's going to go to that fan base. And when the Orioles get back off of this road trip and they get back home, that Orioles magic is going to be back. They're going to start filling up that ballpark again. It is a marvelous place to play baseball. It has been down for the last 4 or 5 years. If Jack Flaherty is the real Jack Flaherty and he finds it, he is going to shoot life into that rotation, and the Orioles have a chance to go deep.
He's about 4 years of league average right now. I looked up his numbers. I'm like, I haven't heard. He was great this like 5 years ago. Dan, like what makes you think that the Orioles will, fix him?
What I like about this, a big ballpark, that left field, when he's on, he's as good as anybody keeping the ball in the ballpark. He doesn't give out a lot of home runs, and when he's good, he'll get swings and misses, but he'll keep the ball down on the ground. They have a good infield defense. That big wall in left field, this ballpark should suit him. This team should suit him.
4 years, his ERA plus is 100, the last 4 years. Now, we thought he was going to be a superstar in the sport, and he's still young.
He's been hurt a lot.
Still happened. Okay, who stood out to you?
I really like what the Marlins did. And I mentioned this earlier. The changes weren't dramatic, but you go out and you get arms like Robertson and Lopez for your bullpen. Obviously, Lopez hasn't had the success this year that we saw last year, with the Orioles at times, but two really good arms. Then you see Bell and Berger, guys who can hit the ball out of the ballpark, especially Jake Berger. But Josh Bell, the way he's been swinging the bat of late has been really nice. Robertson, again, he's been very good for the Mets so far this year. Struggled in his first 2 outings so far. not his best, but that's something, you assume will work itself out. Ryan Weathers is actually kind of a sneaky acquisition, a nice left-handed arm. The numbers aren't there for him, but maybe they can figure something out with him. Jake Berger, you just saw the stats there. This guy brings real power to a lineup that truly needs it. Outside of Jorge Soler, they don't have a ton of it. Guys like Sanchez, De La Cruz, they've provided it at times. Chisholm is back. He can provide it. I think this team is rounding into shape. I like what they did, and not to throw shade on Gene Segura, he just hasn't been very good this year, and getting him kind of off that team, I think actually really helps them.
They've surprised me all year. Again, Sandy Alcantara has not pitched well, and we thought he could be the premier pitcher in the sport. Jazz Chisholm has been hurt left and right. He's hitting about league average, and yet there they are in postseason contention. Here's their general manager, Kim Ng.
We started out this morning talking about what our goals were. Number one was to really try and help the offense. So we think we did that. But it was really about lengthening out the lineup and trying to give our starters a little bit more support, as well as getting that traffic in that we've seen on the bases. Sometimes these conversations, they last a long time, over the course of the last week or so, and it takes a while for these deals to come together. How big a deal this is for the city and for the Marlins fans and for all those guys downstairs, and you have to do what you can to improve the club.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard, Bell was supposed to be the answer with Cleveland. Again, you just look at the raw numbers. They're not there. He was disappointing with the Padres last year. Weathers has a good ceiling, but I've also seen him get hammered with the Padres as well.
He might be able to be a swingman for them. Like, we've seen him start. We've seen him come in as a reliever for San Diego. Maybe Miami's just hoping to get any kind of innings out of him, see when they need him. Maybe matchups work left on left in certain areas. Maybe that's the idea. We'll see where they go. Maybe they have an idea to fix him or try to get that. Because really with him, it's not about the swing. His swing and miss isn't great, but it's about when guys make contact, they do a lot of damage on them.
Right. Well, they fooled me all year, Dan. I didn't think they'd be where they are right now, and they are. They're in contention.